Hello and welcome to the Morning Show, your wake up at Watches and Wonders. My name's Belle Donati. I'm delighted to have you with us as we wake up this morning. Lots of announcements from brands from us today. In case you missed them yesterday and this morning and overnight, we've rounded them all up into a nice bite-sized film. Let's take a look.
Après, le deuxième atout, c'est ces aiguilles qui sont en forme de cœur et qui vivent et qu'on peut faire vivre sur l'ensemble de nos montres.
Qui sont très reconnaissables.
Qui sont très reconnaissables. Après, il y a le bleu, le fameux bleu Speake-Marin, le bleu électrique, le bleu roi. Bon, déjà, ça tombe bien, c'est ma couleur préférée. Donc, c'est bien tombé. Et voilà, ce bleu est magnifique, électrique, et c'est aussi notre signature.
At Ressence, we are physically and philosophically at the edge of fine watchmaking ecosystem and design differently, unbiased and very often inspired by other fields. With one foot we stand in fine watchmaking, but with the other we stand in the world of Internet of Things, neuroscience, even physiology.
This year, we have decided that it is going to be something different. We have used a material that have never been used in Corum, in a carbon with gold infused, using an open work tourbillon movement that was completely developed for Corum in conjunction with our team. And this, I invite you to come and discover more of Corum during the week of Watches and Wonders.
Today, it is a fully developed, tried and tested watch. It is so complex to produce that only a few pieces are made each year. Last November, Piaget was honored to win the Aiguille d'Or Award for its Altiplano Ultimate concept at the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève. This feat of micromechanical engineering has been the culmination of almost 65 years as a leader in the creation of ultra-thin movements.
Well, there you go. You're all up to date on those watches. Let's dive into some detail on those brand announcements that we just saw there. To do that, I'm joined by Simon De Burton. He's a freelance journalist and author, and he's been writing about watches for the Financial Times for more than 20 years. So he definitely knows his stuff. He's joining us from Newton Abbot in Devon in the UK. Lovely to have you with us, Simon. Thank you for being here. Oh, I do hope we have the connection to Simon.
Hello, Belle. I don't know if you can hear me. I can't hear you, I'm afraid.
I can certainly hear you, Simon. We're just going to try and make sure that connection is established. I believe Simon can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Lovely. Good. Well, let's get started. Now, we've just seen this lovely film with five very different brands, very different offers, essentially, from those five brands. But you've identified one thing they are all trying to do, haven't you?
Well, I have. I mean, when you first suggested that we should talk about these five, I thought, well, what a strange combination of watchmakers. But I mean, that is one of the great things about Watches and Wonders, is that it brings together all these unusual ideas and different ways of telling the time. And you know what you've got here, you've got old brands, you've got new brands, you've got brands that are making watches that tell the time in a completely different way. And with something like Moser, you've got a very traditional watch brand which has somehow managed to make itself stand out by tweaks to its cases and its hands and its dials.
Is it difficult for smaller brands? There are some small independent brands in there. Is it difficult for them to get noticed?
Well, if you think about it, you've got 38 brands showing at Watches and Wonders, and that really is the tip of a very large iceberg. There are many, many hundreds of other brands out there, so it is extremely difficult. And in the case of Moser, which we just mentioned, when that was taken over by Edward Meylan about 12 years ago, the Meylan family is long established in watchmaking in Switzerland for over 100 years. He identified immediately the problem with Moser was that they made wonderful watches, beautifully finished, but they were more or less like the watches you could buy from 5 or 6 other makers. So, he set out to really make these watches stand out and did it in a very unusual way, to the point that a couple of years ago they actually produced a watch which has got no branding on it whatsoever, but it's recognizable by the shape of the hands, by the case, and by the beautiful finish of the dials, and also the incredible quality of the movements.
That's one way one of the smaller brands can sort of make themselves noticed. What about for larger, more established brands? Are they resting on their laurels, or are they having to try and surprise as well?
Well, there's no time for resting on laurels, I'm afraid, in this game. You can see how many people are competing against one another, and as soon as you sort of stop doing something new, you kind of drop off the radar. So I think yesterday Xabi Nuri from Piaget was explaining that they had they'd made the thinnest watch in the world, which is quite an incredible achievement. But this year they're making it different again by making it available in a very sort of customizable way with different colors and so on, and you can basically create your own watch. And what people want nowadays is not just a watch that's different from other watches, but they want a watch that's different from any watch that anyone else has got. So that sort of element of customization is very important now as well.
We're seeing a lot of hard work from all of those brands, whether they're big or small. Simon De Burton, thank you so much for taking us through those announcements that we've had in the last 24 hours. We are now going to take a view from the top. Well, there's a lot to hear from the brand bosses this morning, so let's get cracking. Earlier I spoke to Patrick Prugnot. He is the CEO of Ulysse Nardin. I started by asking him what corporate social responsibility means for the brand.
Good morning, Belle. Thank you very much for the invitation. It means a lot, actually, and it's a very long commitment we had. I mean, first we have commitment as we're part of the Kering group, and obviously we go by the values, very strong values of the group. But for us at Ulysse Nardin, since we've been inspired by the sea since 1846, it means a lot because a lot of our action are actually inspired by the sea. But I would say we do three things. I mean, the first one is we do a lot of work internally to make sure we reduce our energy consumption footprint overall, and that's true in Switzerland, in Le Locle, and in La Chaux-de-Fonds. We've taken some initiative now for more than 10 years, 10 to 15 years. I mean, recycling energy, reducing, for instance, our use of water, also being saving more on to reduce the waste, etc., etc. So a lot of, I would call it like hygiene, one of the things you do first. But then there are a lot of action also we do to protect the ocean. And then obviously protecting the ocean is everyone's motto, but I would say we focus on two things because we cannot do everything, but there are two main aspects. The first one is reducing or fighting against plastic in the ocean. And the second one, which is very dear to us, because Ulysse Nardin means shark. I mean, we've been associated with sharks for a long time, and we actually protect endangered species of sharks. And we do it in particular through some of our ambassadors. Several of our ambassadors are either part of NGOs or do have their own NGOs, and either to protect the ocean or to protect sharks. And for instance, there is one picture that comes to my mind, which is Fred Buell. He's a free diver, and Fred has been a world record champion, but now he spends probably half of his time tagging sharks underwater to help the science to know more about the sharks. And then there is a third part, which is actually the components and the materials. We have a team internally, a lab, that develop materials that are actually more eco-friendly, and especially when it comes to upcycling.
Okay, let's talk a bit about you, because you've been in the job now 4 years.
Yeah.
When you look back at those 4 years, what are you most proud of?
Well, actually, it's probably both a roller coaster and on the other hand, probably the most exciting time of my professional life. It's been, I'm super proud of the level of passion and commitment that exists within the companies. I would say at Ulysse Nardin and Prego, now the level of commitment and passion, as I said, is probably equivalent to what I've seen in companies like Apple before. It's super strong, and I'm really proud to see like it's actually the level of authenticity is super high. And there is one sentence that comes to my mind now you're asking. It's like, it's almost a sentence from the German philosopher Nietzsche. It's like, become who you are. I think the brand are becoming who they are in terms of bringing up their value, their expertise, and also a lot of content. I mean, it's true for Ulysse Nardin. I think we promote a lifestyle, we promote some images that is very consistent with our time and also very true to where we come from.
What about next year? What's planned for next year?
A lot. At Ulysse Nardin, as you know, we just exited the Vendée Globe Challenge, you know, the around the world solo race, selling race, which has been an amazing experience. And now we're entering a phase where there are going to be a lot of activities around some of our product. And we're talking, for instance, during this Watch and Wonders, different aspect of the brand. There is a diverse skeleton, so definitely like a sports watch with a lot of horological content. And on the other hand, we have product like the Hour Striker Blast, which is probably the first Hour Striker, which is so contemporary and with a lot of innovation in it and with a lot of also technology that we all created.
And then briefly, I want to talk about your distribution strategy, because you're doing something quite interesting there.
Yeah, we are. Actually, I think we really believe, I strongly believe that the future of this industry is through the multi-brand retailers. The multi-brand retailers are now making major steps in terms of professionalism. They are very impressive. They are like 20 or 25 players in a world that really make the difference and inspiring the rest of the industry. And I must say, what we learned from this crisis, like there are a lot of things changing. I think the direct to consumer is interesting, but I have a much stronger interest for what we could do working with our multi-brand partner friends, and they do a lot and they do a fantastic job for Ulysse Nardin.
Fascinating, brilliant. Well, we look forward to hearing what's coming. Thank you so much, Patrick Prugnot, for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, we're also lucky enough to have, this time in the studio with us live for the first time, Julien Tornard, who is the CEO of Zenith. Thank you so much for being with us. It's lovely to have someone on set with me this morning.
Thank you, Belle. It's my pleasure to be here on a Sunday morning with you.
I know. What a way to wake up on a Sunday morning. Listen, let's talk straight about the exciting new partnership you have. Tell us more about that.
Yes, of course. We just announced a great partnership with Extreme E-Racing. Off the track racing. It's a crazy race of cars that are fully electric and that are happening in 5 different places in the world, where basically there are big climate change issues that we want to communicate on. No public, nothing, totally green, totally electric, and pushing the limits to the extreme. So perfectly in line with our new watch that we just launched, the Defy Extreme.
Well, this is the sort of exciting new, I guess, vision moment for you, is going into this idea, this space of green, the space of sustainability. How important is that for Zenith?
It's very important, you know, and we launched an initiative 2 years ago called Zenith is Green, and we talk a lot about crafting the future, but how can you imagine crafting the future of Swiss watchmaking without becoming greener? And that was the main idea. So we took first a lot of different initiatives inside the company, because how can you also take big actions outside until you are better inside? So we started, you know, with the plastic bottles and the electric cars and car sharing and different initiatives inside, and now we're ready to go outside and launch this great partnership. So yes, super important to us.
So a real focus on corporate social responsibility,
Absolutely.
Particularly within that green environment. Yep. Are there any other partnerships we should be thinking about with Zenith at the moment?
Yes, we've had a few. You know, recently we announced something with Felipe Pantone, this contemporary street artist, very famous, who actually wrapped up our manufacture in Le Locle with one of his paintings, 600 square meter. We launched a limited edition with him where he integrated kinetic art into the watch. We have one with Patrick Mouratoglou, the famous tennis coach. We have Aaron Rodgers, the great American football player, and all these people. And actually, they have one thing in common, if you want, because we're not so much into the only, I would say, the red carpet effect. You know, we want to partner with people that are embracing the philosophy of the brand, which is time to reach your star. How to get inspired to basically have a dream and go for your dream and realize it. And this is the way we select our partners, yeah.
Absolutely, people who have a passion and they're following their passion,
absolutely.
whichever
That's
field. Now, I cannot help but notice that you have in front of you the model we've been talking about. Let's take a look. Why don't you present to us this model?
Yes, of course. I have the new Defy Extreme, which is inspired from, of course, the Defy collection, the Defy 21, which is the 100th of a second, the fastest and most precise chronograph on the market. And we wanted to rework on the design to make it even more, I would say, dynamic, contemporary, punchy, extreme in a way, pushing the boundaries, pushing the limits. We also worked on a very good interchangeable system where you can very easily change your bracelet, because the watch is delivered with the bracelet that's right here, as well as 2 straps, so you can change the look of your watch in a couple of seconds.
Oh yeah,
and that's also very much, I would say, contemporary. People like to change, you know, depending on which environment you're in, which part of the day, part of the week you want to enjoy your life with. Yeah.
Absolutely, and you've got I can see there's a third
yes, absolutely.
strap there as well.
This is a Velcro, and here we have a third one, which is a rubber.
Okay.
So very good for sport and outdoor activities.
Oh, brilliant. So we've got 3 different ways to wear this new watch. Thank you so much for taking us through that. Julien Tornard, CEO of Zenith, there with us in the studio. A lovely way for us to wake up this morning. We're not finished, though, with our view from the top, because we also heard yesterday earlier from Jean-Marc Pontroué, Panerai's CEO. Now, of course, they also have a new partnership. I started by asking him about that.
Well, at the very first time we have this partnership with UNESCO, we spent a couple of months, if not years, to identify the right partner. And finally, UNESCO gave us a lot of legitimacy and credibility with 3 key pillars. The number one is, of course, financial support to the UNESCO. The second is about the educational mission that we believe we should have by promoting the idea that Panerai is supporting the environment-friendly initiative associated to the oceans, which is a natural background for Panerai. And finally, we have the chance at Panerai to get our own boat, which is a classic vintage boat called Aileen, and we'll use it in the Mediterranean for scientists of UNESCO to make research in the oceans.
And what about this emphasis on ocean preservation, on the environment? How does that fit with Panerai's values, with its mission?
Well, basically, Panerai, all history has been based on oceans. We have been equipping the military navy in Italy for a couple of years, and we believe that Panerai is very important to protect the ocean. So this year, 2021, is an important milestone for our brand as we are entering what we consider as a new era for us, being much more environment friendly, not only for 2021, but for the years to come, as most of our initiatives will be driven through ecological approach in the future.
And are we going to see this new partnership, are we going to see that reflected in design during the week?
So this week is an important one as for many other brands, but for us, we are presenting our second Lab ID, which is a product which is always benefiting from major developments in terms of calibers or materials. And this year, we have the E-Lab ID for ecological Lab ID, a product which is close to be 100% based on recycled materials. So it's not only the strap and the packaging, but it's all the elements of the watch with the bezel, the dial, the luminescence. The hands are, of course, the most difficult to achieve when you're a watchmaker, which is the movement. And that is a concept watch, so to say, which will be limited to 30 pieces. And from that platform, we have decided to develop a more volume-oriented one, which is called the E-Steel, associated to our emblematic line Luminor, which will contain close to 60% of recycled components.
That's really impressive. How important do you think it is for luxury watchmaking to engage with sustainability in order to keep up with the times?
Well, we truly believe at Panerai, which has been a pioneer brand in many aspects for the last couple of years. We have been a pioneer when we relaunched the brand in 1997 by having major on large watches. This year, we strongly believe that environment-friendly initiative will become more and more important. And we see it in many other industries, whatever it's the car, it's the aerospace business, and it will have more and more important relevance in the future, especially for the new generation who will probably not understand in the coming years why we don't do it. They will probably consider that doing it make a lot of sense in the luxury watch industry.
Absolutely. Jean-Marc Pontroué, thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Well, that was the view from the top. Time now for the watching brief. Today, we are taking a look at the theme of neo-vintage. Let's start by taking a look at the watches.
With the retro wave, these neo-vintage watches have become a must. The Tank, an avant-garde model born in 1917, is one of the timepieces that has marked the brand's history. The watch has evolved with finesse, keeping its lines as close as possible to the historical model. The time indication is presented with blue hands. Roman numerals indicate the passage of the hours, while the minutes follow the railroad track scale. The secret signature is positioned on the 7 Roman numeral. The new solar beat movement is powered by solar energy collected by photovoltaic cells hidden under the dial through the hollowed-out Roman numerals. The bracelet is made of an innovative material based on apple waste. This new Tank must bears a double signature and inimitable style carried by a pioneering spirit. Born in 1931, the iconic Reverso by Jaeger-LeCoultre is celebrating its 90th anniversary. This steel model follows the codes of the Art Deco style. It presents the hour and minute with Dauphine hands and a small second on a deep green dial with a sunray brushing. The watch respects the codes of the original one with its faceted applique indexes, the minute track, and the reversible case originally designed to protect the watch crystal for polo players. It is powered by the manufacturer caliber 822 with a 42-hour power reserve. Worn on a green calf leather strap, this Reverso tribute small second has crossed the century. Vacheron Constantin celebrates the 100th anniversary of the watch produced for the American market and nicknamed American 1921. The creativity of the Roaring Twenties is expressed here by a cushion-shaped case, an off-centered crown, and an atypical diagonal display of the dial. This display was adapted for the gentleman drivers to read the time without taking their hands off the wheel. Hours and minutes are indicated by 18-karat blackened gold hands as well as the small seconds. The case houses the hand-wound manufacturer 4400 AS caliber certified Poinçon de Genève. With these two models in white gold of 36.5 and 40 millimeters, Vacheron Constantin expresses itself with a twist. Pilot's watches inspired by cockpit instruments are part of IWC's history. This watch presents all the characteristics of the pilot's watches: an oversized conical crown, a 4-riveted strap, and a sleek dial offering only time indications with central seconds. Housed in a 43mm steel case that is 100 meters water resistant, the 82100 manufacture movement has a 60-hour power reserve and is equipped with a powerful automatic winding system. The Ease Exchange system allows the wearer to easily change the strap. With all its features, this new Big Pilot Watch 43 can be adapted to any situation. With the Heritage Collection, Karl F. Bucherer revisits its history dating back to 1888. The house pays tribute to the 50s with the reverse panda dial and its silver counters on a black dial. This timepiece presents a central hour and minute and a small second. It also displays a chronograph with a central second, a 30-minute counter, and a tachymetric scale. The chronograph is operated with 2 rectangular pushers. The in-house caliber also powers an annual calendar with an outsized date, combined with the month indication at 4:30. With this watch, Karl F. Bucherer celebrates the design and savoir-faire of the early 1950s. With this new Black Bay chrono, Tudor has been revisiting its past with intelligence. The watch features a domed opaline dial with contrasting sub-counters. The hour is displayed with a snowflake hand typical of the first Tudor diving watches. The small seconds is presented in the sub-counter at 9 o'clock and faces the 45-minute sub-counter of the chronograph. The date appears at 6 o'clock. The pushers are inspired by the first generation of Tudor chronographs. With a tachymetric scale on the bezel, the seconds of the chronograph can measure the speed. This chronometer watch is powered by the COSC certified manufacture caliber MT5813. The 41mm steel case with its refined lines and aged leather cuff affirms its vintage inspiration. Inspired by the first Tudor chronographs linked to motorsports, the Black Bay Chrono is also available with a domed matte black dial and a choice of 3 bracelet designs.
Well, that's given you a taste of the watches. We're going to go into some more detail now with independent watch consultant Gianfranco Richel, who's in the studio with me. Morning, Gianfranco.
Good morning.
And Carson Chan, Chief Advisor to the Fondation, who is in Shanghai for us. Morning to you, Carson.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We are very well, thank you. I hope you are too. I want to start, Carson. This is going to sound like a really basic question, but I'd love to know, just give us an idea of what neo-vintage means within the watch context. What are the features of a neo-vintage watch?
Well, in recent years, I think that vintage watches has become very, very important. And brands are also taking a serious notice in this. So we are seeing some neo-vintages. Now, keep in mind, we really have 2 families of neo-vintages. One that is a true re-edition, taking really as close as to the original lines and bringing it back to life using new technology. And then there's another family that is using vintage inspiration. So these are the 2 that we should really look out for.
Okay, so those are the themes. Talk us through. Let's start with the Cartier that we saw in that short video. Just talk us through how that is inspired, Carson, by those neo-vintage themes.
The Cartier Tank Musk really is the representation of what is the re-edition, because they are taking almost as close as the original lines into the watch, but they are using a very new technology, the solar bead movement, which lasts for 16 years. This is a true neo-vintage.
Okay, and so this for you is more this idea of the re-edition, right? As in terms of the themes you were talking about.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we stay with that theme of the re-edition, Gianfranco, you've got something in the flesh for us to see. Let's take a look.
Absolutely. Let's stay in the re-edition style, and I brought to you this fantastic Jägerlecoultre Reverso, which is also a re-edition of a model born in 1931, so imagine 90 years. So the tank was more the beginning of the Art Deco design period with these typical shapes, rectangular, straight lines, angles, and this exactly on the opposite, on the end of the Art Deco period, but absolutely recognizable with this typical physical signature. You can turn the movement, the whole case, and flip it to protect the crystal. So that's also a beautiful re-edition.
Absolutely, and even to my eye, that really does have that vintage feel to it. Is that the case as well, Carson, with the Vacheron Constantin that we have as well?
The Vacheron is it's a lovely, beautiful piece. I don't know if we can see it on the screen, but it's an edition that comes from 1921. So right in between of the 2 watches that we just saw. Pay attention to the case shape, where the crown location and how they position the dial. So this was done really back in the days for the purpose of easy reading the time, whether you are driving or doing other activities. The watch on the wrist is meant for you to have a very easy, direct reading of.
Beautiful. Now, Gianfranco, for the next 3 watches that we saw in that film, you and Carsten have identified a slightly different theme, haven't you, with neo-vintage?
Yes, if you just think about the inspiration, so imagine taking some aesthetical codes from all the watches or all the periods. So try to imagine you are a pilot in a cockpit, of course, open cockpit with the wind as you are flying against the wind. And in this situation, it's nice to see how the pilot could request a kind of dashboard instrument, but on his wrist. So this watch here represents it perfectly, as you have a big diameter, huge numerals, luminous obviously, and imagine, because it's cold, big leather gloves, so therefore even the crown has to be really huge to be winded during the flight. So these are the neo-vintage codes in today's watches.
Yeah, and that really takes you back, as you say, to that moment in the cockpit of those older planes. And does that link for you with the Carl F. Bucher at all?
Oh, yes, obviously. Carsten, you love this period, right? When in the 40s we applied this kind of combining colors, white and black.
We call it, nowadays we have a new nickname for it. We call it the panda dial, or the reverse panda, on how you look, right? So this was really designed as tool watches. It's made to have a huge contrast, making it easy to read the time.
So do you know what, even to my eye, I wonder, I don't know if we can see them both next to each other, because that's the Carl F. Bucher that we're talking about with the Tudor watch. And the two of them really have this panda, I mean, I can't describe it any other way. It looks like a panda face looking at it, doesn't it?
You recognize it perfectly. In fact, this black, white, black could be the white dial with black counter like on the Tudor Black Bay, which offers both possibilities. But if you have a look, you also see this beautiful aged calf leather cuff, which makes it even more vintage. And the other version with this metallic bracelet, beautifully riveted in a visible way, that's really neo-vintage pure. It means you have the look of yesterday, but with today's technologies, you have the reliability and accuracy of today's watches at your wrist.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. Listen, thank you so much to both of you. Carsten in Shanghai, Gianfranco here with us in the studio, talking about those beautiful pieces in the context of neo-vintage. We are going behind the clock face now. Well, this is the segment where we invite you to dream. And we're going to start with Bulgari today. They have a special partnership to secure a brighter future for children around the world. That was Bulgari and their partnership with Save the Children. It's time for us now to take a look at the day's panel. Fondation is hosting a panel discussion on a different theme, a different aspect of the watchmaking industry. To do that on the morning show, we have a chat with Pascal Ravessoud every morning, Director of External Affairs for the Fondation and a watchmaking expert in his own right. Let's start with yesterday's panel. Just talk us through it and what came out of that panel.
Yes, good morning, Belle. Yesterday we have experienced something quite strong, a draft of collaboration between IWC and Tag Heuer for a Formula One based event for the fans. So this is the second collaboration drafted at Watches and Wonders in 3 panels after Jean-Marc Controuet opened the door of his manufacturer to its competitors to give them access to R&D work in the CSR field. So I'm extremely happy that our platform is actually helping the main players of this industry to get closer.
That's amazing. So that's really a sort of breeding ground for all these collaborations, which is wonderful to see at the Salon.
Totally.
Talk us through, because yesterday was about client experience. What else came out of that?
Yes, well, the outcome was basically that we're talking about digital and physical and phygital. So technology, the outcome is that technology should serve the purpose of connecting the dots to offer a seamless and comprehensive, even consistent experience for the client, where the boutiques are becoming a hub for the omni-channel experience. So there's still a consensus that nothing replaces the physical experience, which is quite reassuring in a way.
Definitely. I'm sure a lot of people will be extremely happy to hear that. And what about today's panel? It's going to be all about innovation. What can we expect?
Yes, innovation is really always been an important part of watchmaking. We will try to see today if the innovation is really driving the customer interest. So we have a look at what is the current trend or what are the current innovations that are proposed by the brands. We'll have a look at how do they serve the customers' interests and needs and contribute to perpetuate the dream effect of the product. And we'll also ask if innovation is still a driver of sales for the final client.
Okay, and who will we have on that panel?
Well, we have a few quite interesting people. Antoine Pain, the director of the watches division of Bulgari. We'll have the CEO of Ressence, Benoît Mintiens. We have William Masena, a long-time collector and also founder of Masena Lab. We have Ariel Adams, the founder of Black to Watch, and Patrick Tark, a long-time collector as well.
Oh, brilliant. So great panel coming up, and really exciting to hear that the Fondation's been able to sort of create and forge these amazing partnerships between different brands. Pascal, thank you very much for taking us through that. We have come to the end of our show here on The Morning Show this morning. It's been a packed programme, and I hope it's given you a lot to think about during the day. Explore the digital platform. Make sure you find a new space that you haven't. Open some new conversations today, and we will be here with you tomorrow morning. See you then.